Will the clerk please call the roll?
Senators Baisley,
Excused.
Bridges, Buckner,
Excused.
Coleman, Cutter,
Excused.
Danielson, Exum, Fields,
Excused.
Gardner,
Excused.
Janal, Gonzalez, Hansen, Hinrichsen, Moreno, Mullica, Pelton B, Pelton R, Priola, Rich, Roberts, Rodriguez, Simpson, Smallwood,
Excused.
Sullivan, Van Winkle,
We'll fix it.
Van Winkle,
It's fine. Excused.
Will, Buckner, Fields, Gardner, Lundin, Van Winkle. I don't see. Mr. President,
Here. The morning roll call is 30 present, 0 absent, 5 excused. We have a quorum. Will the good senator from Newcastle please lead us in the pledge?
Thank you, Mr. President. All the senators and our honored guests in the chamber, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal. Senator Rich.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate Journal of May 1st, 2023 be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Senate Services.
May 2nd, 2023, correctly printed Senate Bill 303 and 304, correctly engrossed Senate Bill 298 and 302, Senate Joint Resolution 4, correctly re-engrossed Senate Bills 251, 263, 286, 292, 295, and 297, correctly revised House Bill 1056, 1153, 1197, 1201, 1212, 1216, 1218, 1233, 1236, 1237, 1244, 1245, 1259, 1264, 1271, and 1278, correctly re-revised House Bill 1003, 1019, 1061, 1074, 1091, 1102, 1105, 1136, 1161, 1162, 1181, 1182, 1184, 1205, 1227, 1229, 1231, 1241, 1243, 1250, 1261, 1262, 1272, 1274, 1275, 1279, 1298, 1300, and 1305. House Concurrent Resolution 1001, correctly enrolled Senate Bills 36, 56, 165, 184, 192, 260, 264, 265, 268, 273, 284, and 287.
Committee reports.
May 2nd, 2023, the Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1013 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole. The favorable recommendation with the recommendation to be placed on the consent calendar. House Bill 1088 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole. A favorable recommendation. House Bill 1107 be referred to the Committee of the Whole. A favorable recommendation with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. House Bill 1133 be referred to the Committee of the Whole. A favorable recommendation. House Bill 1138 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1158 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. With the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. House Bill 1210 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole. A favorable recommendation. House Bill 1247 be referred to the Committee of the Whole. A favorable recommendation with with a recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. House Bill 1252 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, a favorable recommendation. House Bill 1267 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, a favorable recommendation with a recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. House Bill 1270 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, a favorable recommendation. House Bill 1299 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, a favorable recommendation with a recommendation be placed on the consent calendar.
Will the clerk please add Senators Lundin, Gardner, and Van Winkle to the roll? Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by the senator from Denver.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will proceed out of order. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Members, thank you, Mr. President. Members, before we get started on the rest of our busy week, I wondered if you would take just a moment with me to help me to celebrate and honor the state champion, George Washington High School speech and debate team, who is joining us here this morning. And I have a short tribute I wanted to read to celebrate their accomplishments. The Colorado Senate recognizes the George Washington High School speech and debate team for winning the 2023 5A Colorado State Championship. The Senate also honors the individual accomplishments of the 2 competitors who were state champions and the 15 competitors who placed among the top 5 in state. The speech and debate team was formed when George Washington opened 62 years ago, and there are now over 165 students on the team participating in more than 35 tournaments each season. In the past decade, the team has ranked among the top 10 high schools nationwide. 3 of George Washington's competitors have won the national championship, 22 have placed in the top 10 in the nation, and 28 have won the Colorado State Championship. The Colorado Senate celebrates the team and wishes its members continued success in their speeches, debates, and potential future careers in the Colorado General Assembly. And members, I warned them that our second reading debate may not be at the high standard that they're used to. So everybody be on their toes this morning as they are watching us in action. I'm sure they'll be giving us tips as we go. But join me one more time in celebrating the George Washington State Champions.
Third reading of bills, final passage, consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all of the titles on the consent calendar?
House Bill 1056, Representative Hamrick, Senator Cutter, concerning modernizing record keeping by the state archives. Senate Bill 302, Senators Pelton, B. and Hinrichsen, Representatives Ortiz and Hartza, concerning changes to the Colorado Veterans Service to Career Program.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of all the bills on the third reading consent calendar, which includes House Bill 1056 and Senate Bill 302.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of all of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1056 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Bridges, Priola, with a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, Senate Bill 302 is passed. Co-sponsors, Winter, third reading of bills, final passage. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 298?
Senate Bill 298, Senators Gardner and Roberts, Representatives McCormick and Bockenfield, concerning allowing certain public hospitals to improve access to health care through collaboration and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 298 on third reading and ask for permission to offer a third reading amendment.
Senator Roberts, can you explain yourself?
I can, Mr. President. I'm sure when you were paying attention during second reading, you remember my colleague offering an amendment to add in the division of insurance to several parts of the bill. Turns out we missed a few parts of the bill where the division of insurance needs to be named, so we are adding their reference in 3 different parts of the bill in L008.
The question before the body is Senator Roberts' request for permission to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and permission is granted. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L008? Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 298 on third reading and hopefully final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of Senate Bill 298. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent to excuse, Senate Bill 298 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Mullica, Will, Exum, Kirkmeyer, Minority Leader Lundin, Janal, Priola, Pelton R. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1153?
House Bill 1153, Representatives Armagost and Amabile, Senators Pelton B. and Rodriguez, concerning a feasibility study to determine pathways to behavioral health care for people with serious mental illness and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1153 on third and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of House Bill 1153. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Baisley, Minority Leader Lundin. With a vote of 30 ayes, 3 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1153 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Hansen, Mullica.
1201, Representatives Doherty and Soper, Senators Mullica and Smallwood, concerning prescription drug benefits contract term requirements and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1201 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1201. Are there any no votes? Senators Baisley. With a vote of 32 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent to excuse, House Bill 1201 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Priola, Henriksen, Janal, Bridges. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1212?
House Bill 1212, Representatives Hamrick and Leiter, Senators Kolker and Danielson, concerning the creation of a navigator program to promote apprenticeships to high school students and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1212 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1212. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Baisley, Gardner, Minority Leader Lundin, Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Pelton B, Pelton R, Simpson. With a vote of 23 ayes, 10 noes, 0 absent to excuse, House Bill 1212 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Marchman, Jaquez Lewis, Priola, Cutter, Winter, Sullivan, Henriksen, Bridges, Rodriguez, Gonzalez, Exum, Mullica, Hansen, Roberts. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1218?
House Bill 1218, Representatives Brown and Tatone, Senator Hawkes Lewis, concerning requiring that a healthcare facility inform patients as part of the informed consent process of services that the healthcare facility refuses to provide to patients when the refusal is for non-medical reasons and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Senator Hawkes Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 23-1218 on third reading and final passage and ask for your support.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1218. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Will, Baisley, Rich, Gardner, Minority Leader Lundin, Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Pelton B, Pelton R, Simpson. With a vote of 21 ayes, 12 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1218 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Priola, Cutter, Henriksen.
An Exum concerning inclusive language access in local emergency situations and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Senator Will.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 23-1237 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1237. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Baisley, Rich, Minority Leader Lundin, Gardner, Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Pelton B. With a vote of 25 ayes, 8 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1237 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Sullivan, Henriksen, Cutter, Danielson, Winter, Bridges, Marchman, Rodriguez, Priola, Hawkes Lewis, Janal, Gonzalez, Colker, Mullica, Roberts. Please add the president. 44. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Will, Baisley, Rich, Minority Leader Lundin, Gardner, Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Pelton B, Pelton R, Simpson. With a vote of 21 ayes, 12 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1244 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Roberts, Hawkes Lewis, Marchman, Cutter, Rodriguez. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1197?
House Bill 1197, Representatives Young and Weinberg, Senator Danielson, concerning requiring the Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing to engage in a stakeholder process to address the oversight of host home providers and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1197 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1197. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Baisley, Gardner, Minority Leader Lundin, Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Pelton B, Pelton R, Simpson. With a vote of 23 ayes, 10 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1197 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Gonzalez, Janal, Sullivan, Winter, Cutter, Priola, Bridges, Marchman. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1236?
House Bill 1236, Representatives Young and Amabile, Senators Colker and Simpson, concerning implementation updates to the Behavioral Health Administration in connection therewith, making and reducing an appropriation.
Senator Colker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 23-1236 on third reading and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1236. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Baisley, Smallwood, Minority Leader Lundin, Gardner. With a vote of 28 ayes, 5 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1236 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Winter, Cutter, Priola, Hawkes Lewis, Janal, Marchman, Pelton B, Hanson, Exum, Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1271?
House Bill 1271, Representatives Gonzalez, Gutierrez, and Soper, Senator Gonzalez, concerning the establishment of Lunar New Year Day as an observed state holiday.
Senator Gonzalez.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1271 on third reading and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, as we hurry through all of these third reading votes on unimportant things, it is fitting and proper that we take a moment to understand why we need to observe the Lunar New Year in Colorado. It will be, as Jury Appreciation Day is, an observed but not a legal state holiday. You may be saying, well, Bob, when is the Lunar New Year? Well, this year it was on January 22nd. In 2024, it will be on February 10th. It can be traced back to the 14th century before the Common Era in China, and it's based, as you can imagine, on the lunar calendar. The beginning of the new year usually commences between late January and mid-February and is one of the most important holidays for many Asian American communities, of which I understand there's a substantial one in the district of the good senator from Denver. Over 2 billion people celebrate Lunar New Year worldwide. It's a recognized school holiday in some cities and counties across the United States. And it's incredibly important to these communities as a festive and deeply traditional holiday. It's the most significant time of the year for the community and is celebrated in the United States and across the globe. I could go on and on for some 20 minutes about the Lunar New Year. But in all seriousness, if you have an Asian American community in your district, I encourage you to reach out to them and celebrate Lunar New Year with them. Find out more about it. It is part of that immigrant culture that each and every one of us share in the United States, which makes us richer culturally, spiritually, as well as economically. So I wholeheartedly support the Lunar New Year as an observed holiday in the state of Colorado. Thank you.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the senator from Colorado Springs. This is important. It is about ensuring that communities within our state are acknowledged. This is an observed, separate from a legal holiday. But on your calendars that you have on your desk yesterday, perhaps you saw that, you see lots of days that are observed, right? Acknowledgements, ways to just say to community, we see you, we acknowledge you. This is in that spirit that we bring forward this policy to acknowledge and observe Lunar New Year Day, and I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1271. Are there any no votes? Senators Baisley, Rich, Liston, Pelton B. With a vote of 29 ayes, 4 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1271 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Gardner, Roberts, Majority Leader Moreno, Kolker, Mullica, Rodriguez, Marchman, Henriksen, Priola, Kirkmeyer, Hansen, Bridges, Sullivan, Danielson, Winter, Exum, Please have the president. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1278?
House Bill 1278, Representatives Brown and Parenti, Senator Gonzalez, concerning measures permitting parties to certain legal relationships to satisfy certain requirements without having to appear in person.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1278 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1278. Are there any no votes? Senators Will, Baisley, Rich, Minority Leader Lundin, Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Pelton B, Pelton R. With a vote of 25 ayes, 8 noes, 0 absent, to excuse, House Bill 1278 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Priola, Majority Leader Moreno, Jaquez Lewis, Colker, Marchman, Henriksen, Cutter, Winter, Sullivan, Bridges. I got you. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1245?
House Bill 1245, Representatives Parenti and Wilford, Senators Priola and Rodriguez, concerning requirements under the Fair Campaign Practices Act for municipal elections.
Senator Priola.
Members, I move House Bill 1245 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I did not get an opportunity to speak on this bill on second reading, but I will be a no on this bill, as I have been on all campaign finance bills in my tenure, both in the House and the Senate. With respect to the sponsors and with the deepest respect to them, I nevertheless will tell you this is an act of folly, as well as an encroachment upon the First Amendment rights of citizens. Each and every campaign finance reform, limitations on money, we're going to get big money out of politics. I know that, well, I don't want to be too tongue-in-cheek this morning. The reality is both sides of the aisle raise large amounts of money from groups, mostly reported, some unreported, legally so. When I first started in politics, Colorado had a system of full disclosure, unlimited amounts and full disclosure. And what happened in that system was, because people did want candidates to know and understand who their supporters were, and it is the reality of the political system, that money went to candidates and it got disclosed. I remember an attorney general race many years ago when an attorney general candidate by the name of Gail Norton, 40 years old at the time, showed surprising strength in her candidacy. And a wealthy Republican business person wrote her campaign a large check. At the same time, within a few days, her opponent, who had been a Republican and then became a Democrat, and no one really liked that very much, but nevertheless, labor unions made very large contributions to her Democrat opponent. The world was shocked. I am tongue-in-cheek this morning, I guess. The world was shocked. And it was printed in the Denver Post and Rocky Mountain News, remember them? And I guess the public read that and goes, wow. Union interest gave money to the Democrat and business interest gave money to the Republican. You know how the race turned out. But it was fully disclosed. But some looked at that and said, we have to get money out of politics. We need to have limits. So we had Amendment 15. I'm sure that a few of you remember Amendment 15, and it was in statute, and the legislature tinkered with it because there were things about it that weren't terribly workable. And that wasn't okay by some accounts. And so then we got Amendment 27, and it's constitutional. I say it's constitutional. I mean, it's in the Constitution. I believe there are parts of it that are unconstitutional, and parts of it have been held unconstitutional. But we still have money in politics. And every effort to have campaign finance reform at the federal, state, or local level has driven the money and its source further and further away from the candidate. And now, when I ran for office, I got pieces of mail saying I was a really good guy in my mailbox, and I didn't even know where they came from or anything about them. And I got pieces of mail that said I was a really bad guy, a terrible guy. I wouldn't have voted for me. From people that my opponent said, I don't know who these people are. And by law, neither of us could know who those people were. And now it turns out that in the nature of political decisions and who is elected, we did this with county officials because Amendment 27 didn't have a limit on county officials. We did it with school boards. Now we're going to do it with municipalities. We're going to say there are limits on how much money can be given. I don't know what the Denver mayoral race was like. The Colorado Springs, well, both Denver and Colorado Springs are still going into the runoff, but I will guarantee you that the amount of money given to the candidates versus the amount of money that was legally and constitutionally spent by groups other than the candidates and their campaigns dwarfed what the candidates got, particularly if there are campaign limits. Now, I'm not running for any other office, don't have plans to. I shouldn't say never. Ronald Reagan said never say never. It is a fact, however, that I will not be old enough to run for president for another 10 years, so I'll have to go and be a simple country lawyer. But my dream has always been to have a campaign that I didn't spend any money myself, and all the people who thought that I was a really great candidate would spend millions of dollars to get me elected. That's what's theoretically possible with these kinds of things. It truly is. And in fact, the greater the limits imposed upon candidates and their campaigns, and keep in mind, I argued and approve of full disclosure of where does it come from. But the more you place limits on the campaigns, the more you will have so-called 527s, and they may disclose. If they do it right, and they set up a 501c4, and the C4 observes all the rules, which means they've got to spend money that's not strictly for campaigns. That C4 can give money and never disclose its donors and put money in. Now, many of you may say, well, the problem really is Citizens United. Citizens United is the law of the land, and organizations have free speech rights as well. Organizations that are corporations or labor unions or associations or just groups of people, that's an association. Because all these things are made up of people, and people have First Amendment rights, and when they join together, they have a right to associate, and they have First Amendment rights. So it is frustrating to me, and at the same time a conundrum as to why people think that passing one more campaign finance restriction is going to get the money out of politics. Why is there money in politics? I mean, I hear people say, why did people spend millions of dollars to elect someone to a town council office that pays $6,000 a year? Why would that happen? Because in politics, people are elected to office, and each and every one of you have a vote on which millions and billions of dollars swing. And I'm not just talking about the state budget. I'm talking about the decisions. I could go down the list of our calendar today and say, that bill is going to transfer money from one group of citizens to another group of citizens. That bill is going to cost an industry a large amount of money to comply.
Senator Gardner, would you like to go into your next 10 minutes?
Yes, I would like to continue, Mr. President. That bill will cost that industry and its shareholders, who are individuals, a large amount of money to comply. Maybe it's good public policy, maybe it's not. But it will be millions and sometimes billions of dollars on which the swing of your vote depends. So don't be surprised that there's a large amount of money spent on who's elected. It's my job and your job and all of our jobs to be faithful to the oaths that we take. But I know, I've slowly come to this realization that there are people in this chamber that don't agree with me on everything. They think something totally different about the economy and the culture and the way that we should be governed. And those that agree with them have a great deal riding on their vote. And they think they ought to be here. And another group of people think I ought to be here. And they're willing because the stakes are huge. Now, my own belief about this is if you wanted to control the amount of money that goes into politics, control government power. If government doesn't have a lot of power, then there isn't a lot of incentive for people who run businesses to spend their money to see that the people who wield that power exercise it the way that they would like. There's nothing wrong or immoral about that. They're competing viewpoints and competing value systems, and there are even those out there that support someone who doesn't agree with them because they are at least a constructive voice in government. And then voters often say, well, I can't vote for anybody because I don't like any of them. And I have the discussion with them about, you're always voting for the lesser of the two evils. I'm honest enough when I run for office and somebody says, well, I don't much care for your opponent, Bob, but you've done some things I really don't like. And I say, well, I'm sorry about that. You're voting for the lesser of two evils, so I hope you'll consider me the lesser of the two evils. I mean, that's political realities, folks. And money and politics are political realities. At the Constitutional Convention, the United States Constitutional Convention, in 1787, there were lobbyists there. And there were people trying to influence the outcome of what the Constitution said. And in particular, it had to do with statehood. And it turns out that those people who owned a good deal of land and had a great lot of landed interest in what was then known as the Northwest Territories wanted easy statehood. I mean, there were people in the Constitutional Convention that, those delegates got elected from their constituencies. There was a lot of influencing around that. Sort of as a backdrop and an underlying story of that whole thing is that there were people who thought 13 colonies ought to be 13 colonies and ought to stay 13 colonies. Becoming states, those 13 states would be it, and the rest of that land out there. And there were other people who said, no, I own land out there, or I've got options on the land, or I live out there, and I want it to be possible for a place called Ohio to become a state. A lot of economics tied up in that decision and who got elected. So, I'm a no vote, if you haven't gathered, on municipal election campaign finance restrictions, and have been a no vote on each and every one of these. I will always vote for full disclosure of contributions to candidates, however large they might be, where they come from, who supports whom. I think you won't find many surprises in that thing, although people do brag about having, 3,000 donors that are small donors and large donors and all those things. Okay. There will always be money in politics because politics is the business and art form that elects people to public office, and elected officials wield votes and have power, even for a little while, thank goodness. And that power and the way that vote is cast or that decision is made has great influence over how people live their lives, how the economy works, who pays taxes and who doesn't pay taxes. Each and every one of those things. It is without, again, with the deepest respect, I just have to say campaign finance restrictions are naive. We ought to be looking at the world as it is, not as the world we'd like to make it be. And the world as it is that there's a very powerful federal government, a very powerful local government, and our municipal governments make very large decisions regarding land use, land development, water, and things that business, all of those things. This will just drive the money to third party, and people will call it dark money, and I'll roll my eyes and say, well, you made it dark. I urge a no vote.
Seeing no further discussion, Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I'm urging respectfully a no vote on this bill. It's not because I object to campaign contribution limits. I, in fact, sponsored a bill down here at the Capitol that instituted limits for our county elections. What I do have an issue with, however, is the lack of specificity of the limits themselves, where it's creating a uniform standard that is being applied to cities that have very different configurations. So, for example, currently in my community of the city of Arvada, there are 4 council districts that represent a smaller area of the city. There are 2 at-large members who represent the full city, and the mayor that represents the full city. So there are differentiated campaign contribution limits for those. If you're running for a small district, you have to reach fewer people than if you're running at large. So having the same contribution limit for everybody, regardless of the configuration of how your city is arranged, I find problematic. My other community that I represent, the city of Westminster, they do not have council districts. They all run at large. So one particular contribution limit would be acceptable in that instance, but not all cities operate that way. Cities operate very differently. Some have what's called a strong mayor form of government, where they have a city council that operates over here, and then they have an entirely different administration that's run by a mayor. This does not acknowledge that. There are some councils where they have a mayor-manager form of government. There are some council governments where the mayor on that council is non-voting unless in order to break a tie. There are different configurations of municipalities throughout Colorado and the way that they organize their government. And I feel that these contribution limits should reflect that. We have some smaller communities that they can't go door to door, for example. I love going door to door, and I have very dense blocks where I'm able to do that very easily. In some of the areas of our state, they have to rely on reaching voters through the mail, for example, which is pretty costly given the size of their community or the sparsity of that community. So there are individual characteristics about each of these communities that are different, and a uniform standard here would just not reflect that. I feel that if you have, in my community, individual council districts that represent a smaller portion of the community, it does not make sense that they would have the same limit as somebody who has to run citywide. It's a different voter base that you have to reach out to. So again, it's not my objection to the disclosure or limits, because I believe strongly in both of those things, as I've demonstrated down here in prior legislation. What I do object to, however, is the strict component of these particular limits, not recognizing the diversity of communities that we have and the way that they arrange their governments. And so for those reasons, I would have to ask for, respectfully, for a no.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1245 lay over to the end of the calendar.
The motion is to lay over House Bill 1245 to the end of the calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1245 will lay over. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1264?
House Bill 1264, Representatives McCormick and Catlin, Senators Pelton R. and Marchman, concerning the authority of the Commissioner of Agriculture to act in instances involving the health of livestock.
Senator Marchman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move HB 1264 for third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1264. All those in Are there any no votes? Senators Pelton B. It's a Pelton on Pelton fight. Van Winkle. Smallwood. Minority Leader Lundin. Kirkmeyer. With a vote of 28 ayes, 5 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1264 is passed. Co-sponsors. Will the clerk please read the title? Actually, will the clerk please add Senator Buckner to the roll? Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1216?
House Bill 1216, Representative Story and Froelich, Senator Danielson, concerning measures to promote safety in the distribution of natural gas.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1216 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1216. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Will, Baisley, Rich, Minority Leader Lundin, Gardner, Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Pelton B, Pelton R, Simpson. With a vote of 22 ayes, 12 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1216 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Jaquez Lewis, Marchman, Janal, Cutter, Buckner, Gonzalez. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1259?
House Bill 1259, Representatives Doherty and Evans, Senators Zenzinger and Simpson, concerning provisions in the open meetings law for an executive session of a local public body and in connection therewith prohibiting an award of costs or attorney's fees in certain circumstances and an action challenging a local public body for a violation of the open meetings law related to an executive session.
Senator Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 23-1259 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, there were not very many people who were here, so I just want to recap very quickly that we did have a strike below amendment for this bill yesterday. What we did is we rewrote it, leaving only a small portion of the bill that bars the pro se litigants who challenge the legality of executive sessions from collecting court costs and attorney fees if they prevail in court. What the strike below amendment did, it was language that was offered up by, very similar language that was offered up by the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition. And what it did is it removed portions of the bill that would have allowed school board and other local public bodies to cure an executive session announcement violation of the Colorado Open Meetings Law at a subsequent meeting. It would have, the bill originally would have allowed legal standing to challenge a violation under the deleted language, and a person would have had the opportunity to provide a written notice at least 14 days before a regular meeting of the public body, but all of those items were struck in the strike below amendment. and all that remained of the bill was Section 9, which would bar pro se litigants who challenge the legality of those executive sessions from collecting court costs and attorney fees if they prevail in court. That's because we right now have some bad actors that are abusing the system. At the same time, we don't want to diminish or dilute our open meetings laws, in particular with regard to executive sessions, because we feel that they're important. We just want to make sure that they are not being abused. And so for those reasons, we ask for your aye vote on this bill.
See no further discussion. The motion is the passage of House Bill 1259. Are there any no votes? Senators Baisley, Gardner. With a vote, Marchman.
We did a strike below amendment.
Minority Leader Lundin. Gonzalez. With a vote of 29 ayes, 5 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1259 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Pelton B. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1233?
House Bill 1233, Representatives Moreau and Valdez, Senators Priol and Winter F. concerning energy efficiency and in connection therewith requiring the State Electrical Board to adopt rules facilitating electric vehicle charging in multifamily buildings, limiting the ability of the State Electrical Board to prohibit the installation of electric vehicle charging stations, forbidding private prohibitions on electric vehicle charging and parking, requiring local governments to count certain spaces served by an electric vehicle charging station for minimum parking requirements, forbidding local governments from prohibiting the installation of electric vehicle charging stations, exempting electric vehicle chargers from business personal property tax, and authorizing electric vehicle charging systems along highway rights-of-way.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1233 on third reading and final passage, and I request permission for a third reading amendment.
Senator Winter, please explain the need for a third reading amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sometimes you have to say and write things 3 times to get it right. So this is no different than what we were doing on the second reading amendment, on the Cow amendment, and now a third reading amendment to bring into alignment the definition of disproportionately impacted communities. And I think this is clean and beautiful now on the third time.
The question before the body is permission for Senator Winter to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and permission is granted. There's an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L44?
Amendment L044 with Senator Winter, amend revised bill,
Senator
page
Winter.
24.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move L044.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of L44. Are there any no votes? These are no votes on the amendment, right? Senators Gardner, Minority Leader Lundin. With a vote of 32 ayes, 2 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, L44 is passed. To the bill. Senator Winter.
Oh, no.
Seeing no. Senator Pelton, I'm glad to see you don't have any props with you.
No.
No reading materials?
No reading material.
Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the sponsors for working with me on a few amendments that I brought in yesterday. I still have to be a no vote on this because I still feel like that we can use, if we're going to have so many electric cars in Colorado, I feel like that the marketplace should be able to set these chargers where they need to be. So not only that, but with the money coming down from the feds, with the IIJA money, I think this is what we call it, or it's whatever the initials are, that we can actually use to incentivize these places to be able to put in these chargers. So I thank the sponsors for working with me. I just wanted to explain my no vote, but I appreciate them allowing local governments to be able to grandfather some of those developers in. So I appreciate it, but I still ask for a no vote.
See no further discussion. The motion is the passage of House Bill 1233. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Will, Baisley, Rich, Minority Leader Lundin, Gardner, Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Pelton B, Pelton R, Simpson. With a vote of 22 ayes, 12 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1233 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Cutter, Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the balance of the third reading calendar lay over until tomorrow, Wednesday, May 3rd.
The motion is to lay over the balance of the special orders, third reading of bills calendar until tomorrow. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? The ayes have it. And the remainder of the calendar will lay over until tomorrow. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate proceed out of order for consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar. Colleagues, there has been a request to remove the members of the Air Quality Control Commission from the consent calendar, so that will be after the consent calendar.
The motion is for the Senate to proceed out of order for purposes of governor's appointments consent calendar and then governor's appointments. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? The ayes have it, and the Senate will proceed out of order. Will the clerk please add Senator Fields to the roll? Consideration of governor's appointments, consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all of the appointments listed on the consent calendar?
Members of the Colorado Wildlife Habitat Committee for a term expiring December 31st, 2023, Liz Rose of Denver, Colorado, a sportsperson to serve as a representative of the Northeast Region occasioned by the resignation of Jennifer Gluck of LaSalle, Colorado, appointed for terms expiring December 31st, 2026, Brian Webster of Grand Junction, Colorado, a sportsperson to serve as a representative of the Northwest Region appointed. Dave Dillon of Durango, Colorado, a sportsperson to serve as a representative of the Southwest Region appointed. Lauren McCain, PhD of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a representative of a nationally or regionally recognized conservation organization whose mission is focused on non-game wildlife and whose membership is composed primarily of non-game wildlife users. Reappointed members of the Water Quality Control Commission for terms expiring February 15, 2026, Nicole Poncelet Johnson of Fort Collins, Colorado, to serve as a member at large. Appointed Charles Michael Webster of La Junta, Colorado, to serve as a member at large. Reappointed Sonia Chavez of Gunnison, Colorado, to serve as a member from west of the Continental Divide. Reappointed members of the State Board of Health for terms expiring March 1st, 2025. Dr. Christina Sue of Aurora, Colorado, resident of the 6th Congressional District and a Democrat occasioned by the resignation of Sean Turk of Centeno, Colorado. Appointed Jeff Crow, PhD of Grand Junction, Colorado, a resident of the 3rd Congressional District and a Republican occasioned by the resignation of Patricia Hammond of Eagle, Colorado, appointed effective March 2nd, 2023 for terms expiring March 1st, 2027. Evelyn Barrio, PhD of Fort Collins, Colorado, to serve as a resident of the 2nd Congressional District and as a Democrat. Reappointed Thomas Butts of Thornton, Colorado, to serve as a resident of the 8th Congressional District and as an unaffiliated. Reappointed.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the confirmation of all the appointments listed on the consent calendar, which includes members of the Colorado Wildlife Habitat Stamp Committee, the members of the Water Quality Control Commission, and the members of the State Board of Health.
Is there any discussion? The motion is the confirmation of all of the appointments on the consent calendar. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the appointments are confirmed. Consideration of governor's appointments. Will the clerk please read the appointments to the Air Quality Control Commission?
Members of the Air Quality Control Commission, effective February 1st, 2023, for terms expiring January 31st, 2026, Guillermo Bill Gonzalez III of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a representative of Technical Experience, reappointed. John Slutsky of Wellington, Colorado, to serve as a representative of Agricultural Experience, reappointed. Randall Irons of Broomfield, Colorado, to serve as a representative of Industrial and Private Sector Experience, reappointed. Gerald Arnold of Englewood, Colorado, to serve as a representative of Labor and Industrial Experience, reappointed.
Senator Fields.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues. I move for the appointments of the Air Quality Control Commission to serve as members of this board.
Is there any discussion? Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respect that the work that the AQCC does and CDPHE does, and want to express my extreme disappointment in their adoption of the most recent state implementation plan to meet our air quality goals. We have repeatedly passed laws setting language to achieve carbon reductions, to achieve ozone reductions. The EPA just downgraded us again for not meeting our state implementation plan. What happens when the EPA downgrades us is they start making decisions for our state, like reformulated gasoline, which makes no sense. The use of reformulated gasoline is a very low impact on the climate and is created at Suncor, which is already an environmental justice community, in a very environmentally degrading way. And instead of our Air Quality Control Commission doing their job to bring us into compliance, we're waiting for the EPA to tell us what to do. I attended many of the public hearings. I spoke at many of the public hearings on the state implementation plan. And my request to the Air Quality Control Commission is to do better. We are out of compliance. We have constituents waking up every single day to high ozone alerts. We have people with vulnerable lungs, our seniors and our children not going outside. We are sitting here saying that when they passed the state implementation plan, the entire board admitted it was not going to meet our air quality goals. That's not okay. And so today, during their appointments, I am asking them to do better and to work harder and make the decisions that are right for Colorado to meet our air quality goals and to have a better state implementation plan.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. And in committee, we had all the appointees share their qualifications and their background, and I can share with you my opinion is that they are all committed to making sure that our air is clean and our citizens and our people who visit the state of Colorado will be protected based on the mission and the objective of this Air Quality Control Commission. So members, I urge and I vote on the appointees.
The motion is the appointment of members to the Air Quality Control Commission. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, the appointments are confirmed. In response to a request from the House for a conference committee on House Bill 1108, the Senate conferees are Senator Hansen as the chair, Winter and Gardner as members on the first conference committee on House Bill 1108. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until later today.
The motion is to lay over the balance of the calendar until later today. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The balance of the calendar will lay over until later today. Announcements. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. Sorry, Mr. President. Sorry, Mr. President.
We all make mistakes, Senator Rodriguez. That will be $20.
No, I'm for the, okay, never mind. I'll do it later. I'm not even going to talk after that.
We will cut it in half to $10. Senator Bridges.
I'll take a chance, Mr. President, sir. The Appropriations Committee will be meeting upon adjournment to hear Senate Bill 303 and 303 alone. We will be in the usual place with, I believe, the usual committee. Perhaps not. But we will be in the usual place. We'll see you soon.
Senator Gonzalez.
Hi, team. The Senate Judiciary Committee is back at it. We're going to meet upon adjournment, 15 minutes upon adjournment, so approximately 10:45 in the Old Supreme Court. We are going to hear 1280, 1268, 1222, 1214, 1286, 1292, 158, and 1293. We look forward to seeing you all then.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, the plan for today is that we will be breaking here shortly for those upon adjournment committees that were just announced. After that, we will come back to the floor to take up a special orders calendar, work our way through as much of that as possible, and then at that point, we will finish floor work and afternoon committees will be allowed to meet. It will likely mean that afternoon committees are delayed until this evening, so just a heads up on that. With that, Mr. President, I move that the Senate recess until 11 a.m. today. Colleagues, you do not need to return at 11 a.m. That's just done to preserve our ability to read committee reports across the desk.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will recess until 11 a.m. today.